Now that our setup is ready, as you saw, it is very easy to set up Jest and configure it to your project needs. Simple to start with. Now let's look at a couple of real-time examples, and let's write test cases for those examples. First example, it's a pure utility function, which is count and group by property. So basically, if you have a list of objects, and if you provide that to my function and tell me to group them with one of those attributes of those objects, it should output with how many number of objects have this property value as different values in the list of input provided. So similarly, let's look at another example which is more uh, to do with the application business logic. Like whenever an API call is made, we'll call this function to check if the current user is eligible to access this API or not. So each user will have permissions stanza in which it will be defined like what are all available permissions for each of the objects available in the system, and based on that we will determine whether the user is eligible for accessing this API or not. Let's get started with the first one, group and count by property. So let's remove this sum and which is just an example. So deleting them. So let's get started. Let's create a folder called utils. In that I'll write my first app utils.js. Let's write that function constant count and group and count by property, group and count by property, okay, equals to, it takes list and attribute, and we need to return a map as shown in the example. We need to return a map which specifies each value and the number of occurrences of it in different objects. So constant ret map equals to this, and let's iterate to the list dot for each element if ret map of element dot attribute, then just increment its occurrence. Otherwise equals to 1 if it is first time. Return ret map. That's all. It's a simple function. I haven't exported it. Let me export it. Export constant. Okay, then so there are various standards where you write your or organize your test files. The way I prefer is in every folder where we have source files, we create another folder called tests and put the test cases files in that folder. So now we have your testing app utils. So app utils dot test dot js. So what we need here, import obviously whatever required for just globals, describe it, expect. It is nothing but another alias for test command. So basically, describe is to group relative test cases into one suite, and it is each test case. And as you see, expect is what you are expecting as an output to be when you run this test case. So expect is kind of an assertion, and describe is grouping of your test cases and making it as a test suite, and it is a test case. Import app utils group and count by property. Okay, so describe. So usually in describe we mention the name of the test suite or block name. So usually we give it as the file name what we are testing. Okay, and we give a function which has to be executed as right now. We will end up we will only give what needs to be executed, it. So within this test group, what we are testing, app utils. Okay, within the app utils we are testing this function. Okay, and similarly we have, if you see here, there is a timeout. So after how many seconds or how much time we need to execute these tests. So now to organize this code well, let's see. So basically this method takes two inputs, test input list, and let's say this, and test input attribute. So based on these two variables we'll define test output. Okay, now what we do, constant result equals to group by content property of test input list, comma test input attribute, and expect the result to equal test output. Now let's define this list. So let's say this will have product name. Let's say product name, headphones, category, accessories. Okay, we'll add few more entries like this. So imagine this is a e-commerce application, and we have various projects and products and their categories. So that's good enough. Let's have 5 entries. Okay, headphones, mouse comes under head, accessories, and t-shirts, which comes under clothing, and chair, which comes under furniture, and trouser, which comes under clothing. So we have two in clothing category, and 1 in furniture category, and 2 in accessories category. So if we give, I want to group this based on this attribute, category attribute. The expected output is furniture 1, clothing 2 and accessories 2. If you remember earlier, I have given to B, but now I am giving 2 equal. This is to compare the object's values to be exactly same, kind of a deep equality. To be is used for primitive types and 2 equal will be used for object types. npm run test. So automatically Jest will find out so just input list. Yeah, it has passed. So now we don't worry about what the actual functionality has been written as, but we keep writing these test cases to cater our functional needs. So we write various test cases to make sure that what we expected is coming properly. And also, as I was mentioning in our earlier presentation, we do have multiple options to uh, make sure that test cases are run parallelly and in watch mode. We will get to know about them in later. So you don't need to every time run this npm run test automatically. Once it is in watch mode, we keep working on the code, and every time you save a file, the tests automatically get run. That way you are always sure that whenever you write, nothing is breaking. Okay, let's take the next example.